In late September, a group of concerned people came together outside the American Embassy in London to highlight the plight of Gary McKinnon. McKinnon faces extradition to the USA for alleged damage to various computer systems operated by the US military. As a result of recent media exposure, it was apparent to people within the autism community that Gary exhibited classic traits of the condition. It was suggested to his family that he should be assessed. Gary has since been confirmed as having Aspergers Syndrome, a form of autism, by 3 of the top professionals in this field. The demonstration was organised by the Autistic Rights Movement to highlight that Aspergers Syndrome is considered a disability, and as such no extradition should even be considered. Rosa G., the UK Director for Asperger's Women's Association, spoke to us outside the American Embassy.
My name is Rosa G. and I am artist and musician with Aspergers Syndrome. I am also UK Director for Aspergers Women's Association, which is an international organisation dedicated to helping and supporting women and girls on the autistic spectrum.
Can you tell us, how would you define someone who has Asperger's? What are the telltale signs?
Asperger's Syndrome is invisible disability. It is very difficult to identify unless the person who is diagnosing it is a professional and experienced in diagnosing this particular type of autism. It is sometimes also called high-functioning autism, and it is different from the classic form of autism that the child doesn't have speech delay by the age of 3. Most people with Asperger's Syndrome are of normal or above normal intelligence, and one of the giveaway telltale signs is that they have particular obsessions and particular interests. That's how they cope with stress, because having autism means that we're often distracted by the outside noises. We're particularly sensitive. Autistic people can be sensitive to noise and outside environment, and making sense of the human relationships. It's very stressful because it's difficult. Everything has to be, all the decisions have to be made on the intellectual level rather than innate and subconscious like other people do. So in order to cope with stress, people get absorbed into obsessions, and that actually calms them. That's the way we deal with the world.
So when you see somebody like Gary, who appears in an interview to be quite there,
this is not unusual for a person with Asperger's. Sometimes, like with the vampires, they say, it takes one to know one. I knew straight away when I saw Gary being interviewed by his body language, which was nearly non-existent. And also high intellect, often associated with Asperger's Syndrome, together with this obsessional interest which drove him. Also, people with Asperger's Syndrome tend to see things in black and white terms, right or wrong, nothing in between, and that categoric attitude towards life and towards everything is very symptomatic of Asperger's. That's how I can tell that somebody's one of us. There are good and also some negative things about having autism, which is why it is a recognised disability. Social interaction doesn't come naturally. You have to make an effort consciously all the time, which causes great amounts of stress every day.
How did you come to connect with Gary, his family, the Free Gary campaign?
Well, I'm not really connected in any way to Gary's family. I'm just one of many autistic people who rang up to solicitors to ask, obviously Gary's autistic, have you tried that? In his defence, and they said, we've never heard anything about Asperger's before. So it just shows how prevalent it is in society. The ignorance about autism and Asperger's Syndrome in particular is so huge that even people who are closely associated with Gary did not notice. Yet 3 autism experts that have seen Gary, they were top specialists in the area, they all unanimously agreed that he has Asperger's Syndrome, absolutely no doubt.
As I understand it, there is a difference when someone is being extradited or where there's an attempt to extradite someone who has the condition. Is there a difference in the way that they should be treated?
My main worry to do with Gary's Asperger's being going on unidentified for so long, and also the way he's been handled in a heavy-handed manner, is that probably, well, very likely his disability is not going to be taken into consideration when he's handled by the courts and the whole interrogation procedure, everything. That will be in breach of his human rights, no doubt, because he's a person with disability, and denying the fact that he has a disability is not going to make him suddenly non-disabled. His autism is not going to go away, his reactions are not going to be the same as the normal, so-called normal person, so not making allowances or having any understanding about it would amount to a human rights abuse issue. I believe Gary's case is very important to all people on the autistic spectrum in this country, identified and unidentified, because currently we have 634,000 on the autistic spectrum, children and adults, and with further suspected 2 million still undiagnosed. It's a huge number. That means that with Gary being undiagnosed for so long and having absolutely no support whatsoever, which is, I believe, directly resulted in him getting obsessed in the wrong interest and getting into trouble because he was just trying to cope the best way he could, and you can't treat your own autism. Somebody needed to help him. That means that he's not the only one, and what's happened to him could happen to any one of us, which would victimize people unnecessarily. These people need support and help. He's developed comorbid obsessions, comorbid conditions such as obsessive compulsive disorder. He's been reliant on self-medicating with drink and drugs, and depression, severe depression, and even suicidal feelings. These are comorbid conditions that are developing as a result of not diagnosing, not identifying these people earlier in life, having any support at all. And what we need is a drive to re-educate medical profession, health professionals and GPs, and recognizing Asperger's signs in adults, because they're just being left behind. A lot of unemployment is a direct result of having no support for Asperger's. We're very able and we want to be part of the society. It's costing government currently, would you believe it, £28 billion a year to support people who are identified to be autistic. What about those not taken into consideration, who are fitting the criteria but are not officially diagnosed, not counted? What if the majority of people on the dole are autistic? And if you could help them, they could be contributing positively. These are big issues that Gary's case highlights, and that's why it's so important, and we need to help that man.